Welcome back to the Muslim Street. We have with us today in the studio Hassan Shibly. We're discussing some drama that he had with the Hillsborough County, not with the Hillsborough County school system, but with some people that took it up against the Hillsborough County school system of Hassan's presence at a school for being invited into a classroom and speaking about Islam, which is a part of the curriculum. I mean,
Right.
I remember
People of every faith were invited.
people of every faith were invited. Again, you're listening to the Muslim Street live on WTAN 1340. You can call in locally at 727-441-3000 or toll free 1-866-826-1340. Hassan, after this group of people went to the school board meeting and presented their opinion and their side of the story, I mean, tell us about I'm sure you've developed a relationship with some of the school board
Sure.
members. I know some of them personally myself, and
Right.
they're great ladies, the two that I know.
Absolutely.
But please, I mean, let us know how the school board reacted to all of this.
Well, I think the school board was very professional and very responsible and very courageous in how they reacted. I mean, clearly they saw through it. I mean, Ms. Olson, the chairwoman at the time, said that, they would have had this objection practically. I mean, paraphrasing what she said, but no matter who the speaker was, as long as a Muslim person was coming in, they were going to have a problem. I mean, it's very clear from the context. And that's why their attacks were really an insult on the entire Muslim community. CARE Tampa is not funded by anybody outside of Florida. It's completely funded by small contributions from the Muslim community. We are the voice of the Muslim community here in Tampa. I myself am invited as an imam regularly at most of the leading mosques in Tampa to do the sermons. So we are a representative of the Muslim community here, and it was very clear through that whole program that they just did not want anybody out there who would counter the idea that Islam is evil, that Islam brought down the towers, as the kids said.
No one to contradict their opinions.
Exactly. In
basically.
fact, because their opinions are so weak that they know when anybody hears otherwise, the opinions will fall apart. I mean, that's the thing. When you're not confident about what you stand for, then you don't want anybody out there to contradict you. However, if you're confident in what you have to say, then you'll be very welcoming to anybody to come and challenge you and contradict your prejudice or your thoughts because you're certain in it. But obviously, these people have no certainty in what they're saying, which is why they're afraid of anybody challenging it. They want to be able to promote their hatred, and they don't want anybody to promote the other side. The reality that, you know what, American Muslims are patriotic just as anyone else. In fact, we are much more patriotic than you people who are promoting this hatred, who are promoting this bigotry. We are standing up for freedom of speech. We are standing up for freedom of religious diversity, of respect. And they're very clearly going against it. But going back to your question, Laila, the school board was very, very responsible and courageous because they drew the line. They said, you know what? Just as if the KKK came to protest an African-American speaker, we're not going to let you Islamophobes give you any credibility to come in and protest a Muslim speaker. We're going to make you irrelevant. We're not going to empower you by being intimidated by you. Just as we won't be intimidated by anti-Semites, just as we won't be intimidated by the KKK, we're not going to be intimidated by people like you who are promoting hatred against, an entire faith and an entire segment of the American population.
Yeah, so they use words like extremists and terrorists that, you guys are supporting those type of political issues. And, CARE is moderate. You guys are moderate.
Completely empty allegations, though. No truth to it.
I mean, they don't need to be addressed, and that's why I really didn't address the allegations in this talk, because they're baseless. Go to care.com, look at what they say about us. You'll read quotes by top government agencies, leaders, senators, politicians praising CARE for its work, interfaith leaders praising CARE for its work. I mean, there's no basis. The reason they attack CARE is because they hate Islam and Muslims and assume that Islam is a violent religion. Muslims are terrorists, and CARE is the leader in fighting back against that prejudice. So of course, then we're the leader of the so-called terrorists in their respect. And that's what's made us a target.
Yeah, and historically, the Ku Klux Klan in this country, which chased black people, and they were a terrorist organization, which chased black people all the way from Reconstruction to the Civil Rights Act and hung them on trees for decades and decades and decades. They migrated into what was called the White Citizen Council, where they put on pinstripe suits and blue ties, and they ran for office. And they passed laws to basically, in effect, do what they were doing while they had hoods over their heads. And so the Florida Family Association are taking this sort of blueprint, and they are basically riling up these elected officials to pass laws to hang Muslims from trees. And this comes in the terms of the NDAA Act. This comes in terms of this surveillance that's going on in every masjid and mosque across this country. This goes on in terms of this profiling in every airport that we walk through, and these high-profile and even low-profile arrests that are taking place on the citizenships of Muslims in this country. They're getting the job done from their perspective, and we have to begin to heighten this contradiction.
Well, Malik, what it is, it's the same exact hate, but new target. It's the same hatred we saw against Jews, against Catholics, against African Americans. Now, the same hatred, but the new target is Muslims. But this was a test, what happened this past week. And it was a test is, will we as the American public as a whole, the mainstream media, the educational institutions, will we be intimidated by those that are promoting bigotry and Islamophobia? And the answer was very clearly no. I mean, look at the overwhelming amount of editorials written by the Tampa Bay Times and the Tampa Tribune, which called out them for their hatred. I mean, they said these people are basically nuts. I mean, one of the editorials said David Caden is a biblical bully who just needs to shut up. One of the things I really want to read real quickly is a letter which was written to the Tampa Tribune by one of the students that attended my talk. And he writes, and it's on their website, tbo.com. He said, I'm a student in the teacher's class at Steinbrenner High School, and I attended Hassan Shibly's presentation on Islam and found it perfectly appropriate. It's amazing because none of those people who are protesting were actually there or even have children that were there.
I was going to ask you, were they present in that classroom?
None of them were there. None of them were at the presentation, didn't even have children at the presentation. But here's one of the kids who was at the presentation. Here's what he said.
That's awesome.
I attended Hassan Shibly's presentation on Islam and found it perfectly appropriate as it tied into our study of post-classical era. I don't feel like I was being converted and certainly didn't feel like I was being brainwashed. Again, these kids are being insulted. They're offended at what's going on, more than even I am. So he goes on in this letter to the editor that was published on January 27th saying, I'm not sure if this so-called Florida Family Association is serious or just really stupid. It turns out this fundamentalist organization has a messy history of anti-Islamic messages. David Caden, founder and president of the FFA, goes so far to say, folks, we are watching Islamization of America in action. Here's the problem. Caden can't get it through his thick skull that Shibly doesn't have the intention of converting or brainwashing us. Now, apparently, Caden wants to send some of his followers to spew a counter-argument to Islam. Ridiculous. There's a fine line between preaching and teaching. And finally, this young, bright individual ends his letter to the editor saying, if ignorance is bliss, then Caden must be the happiest man in the world. You know, he's recognizing the problem is complete ignorance. It's this ignorance that's people are using. I think Caden and his Geller and Spencer, what they're doing is they are taking advantage of people's ignorance, willfully misleading people. I think the protesters that protested me, the majority of them, I believe, are very, very good people. I think they're innocently but naively misled and brainwashed.
Where's the intellectual discourse in the academic environment that used to go on in the 1960s and the 1970s that brought about change in this country? It brought about a higher discussion between the races on different issues, different social issues. It brought about change in terms of gender rights in this country. But there has to be an open and honest discourse first without this preconception of hate and you know this I'm not going to listen to this.
We're afraid to even listen to each other, and that's what I want to reach out to these people. And actually, as a result of this program, on February 10th at 6 p.m. in the Islamic community of Tampa Bay, we're going to be hosting an Islam 101 Misconceptions about Islam and Islam versus Terrorism program. And we'll give you the information you can put on your website and encourage everybody to come out there, because that's what it is. It's ignorance leading to fear, leading to hatred, which can even lead to violence. And we just need to have a conversation. And these people are even afraid to engage in the conversation because they know that once we get to know each other, you know, a lot of the prejudice that we hold may have to come off, and they may be a little bit insecure to lose that, because right now it's convenient to blame all your problems on the other.
Yeah, stay tuned stay tuned up next after the Muslim Street for my main man Larry G. We're talking about addiction. Maybe we need to bring these people in because they're addicted to hate. Maybe we need to sit down with my man Larry G. And Larry G can work some of his magic on them.
But listen,
Well, the center, this entire conversation goes back to the report that you gave me, Hassan, the Center for American Progress, Fear Inc. report. Some of our listeners may be asking themselves, why do people spend so much of their time so focused on attacking the likes of Hassan, on
Yeah.
attacking the Muslim community, on attacking just, their citizens, their neighbors, their schoolmates, their coworkers, and it's definitely something to look into. Hassan Shibly does have them available in the CARE Tampa office, and you can also look into it online. It is
Fear
available
Inc.
on Fear Inc. It's AmericanProgress.org. You can look into the report that kind of does a really great interplay on who are these people, such as Pamela Geller and FFA. Who are these people? Who is funding them? How are they getting money? What's their mission in all of this? And it's a really great report on Islamophobia.
and the beautiful thing, Laila and Malik, out of this, what happened this week, is I think it was a beautiful test that we all passed together as a community and showed that, hey, we're not going to be intimidated by these fearmongers. The board didn't give in to them. They said, listen, we're not going to take you seriously as we don't take the KK seriously. They didn't literally say those words, but I mean, the message was there. One of the board members said, there's extremists in every religion, and we can't protect our children from them, hinting at the extremists that were right there preaching the hatred against
Exactly.
Islam. And the media called them out for what they are. Listen, we need to be united as a community and not be intimidated by those that are promoting hatred. And I applaud the board and the community for being courageous to standing up to the voices of hatred. And I do say it's courageous. Why? Because the minute you stand up to their bigotry, you become a target of their thousands of repeated of hate mail. And hate
Definitely.
letters and just harassment. And that's what they have. Their weapons are vile. Read the letters. Their language is vile. So much hatred. And we need to stand together. And I am a strong believer that love can overcome hatred.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you so much for that. I completely agree. Thank you for joining us on the Muslim Street. Malik, we have an interesting month coming ahead of us. We have some great shows planned. And
Yes, absolutely. Stay tuned. The month of February, of course, being Black History Month, and we are going to highlight the African presence in Islam, both historically and in this country. Next week, we will have the co-founders of the International Museum of Muslim Culture, so Kola Rashid, along with the Mad Turk, who have an excellent project discussing and documenting the history of Muslims, not only in the United States, but historically, and their contributions to civilization. So definitely tune into our show next week, where we will begin to discuss a month-long discourse on Black history vis-a-vis Islamic history, as well as we will do 4 sections on Malcolm X, El Hajj, Malik El Shabazz.
yes, we'll be doing a special at the end of each show, bringing you the special on Malcolm X. And it's a really interesting month coming ahead of us. The African American Muslim community is estimated to be about 25 to 30% of the Muslim American community in the United States. So definitely we have some great guests prepared to join us on the show. Really looking forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Muslim Street. Thank you, Hassan Shibly, for joining us.
Hassan in the house.
Thank
pleasure,
you,
guys.
Malik, and we look forward to being back here next week.